It wasn't the biggest deal we've done at Harness or the biggest deal I've done in my career, but it's been the most impactful because it showed me doing the little things right, running the play that we know works, will set you up for success.
Welcome to Hunters and Unicorns Raw Stories live from Las Vegas. I'm Simon Kutis and I'm joined by my co-host Ollie Kune.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
And it's with great pleasure that we introduce you to John Behm. John, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. I've seen many people sit in this chair and it's an honor to be here with you guys.
By way of an introduction, you are the newly promoted VP of Enterprise at Harness, so congratulations on the new promotion. Yeah, today we're really talking about the aha moment that really transformed your career, right? So it's a story about your early days at Harness. Take us to that moment.
Yeah, I look back on this deal often. It really set me on my journey at Harness. I had the fortune of kind of learning the playbook from some legends at Perfecto, Sam Costello, Rob Watson, Keith Butler, who you guys know well. And I thought I knew it, but I got to Harness. And man, it was a complex technology for me early on. And I got mired in the details of the tech and I got away from the fundamentals. So I'm probably 4 or 5 months in at Harness, like, how am I gonna make this work? And we uncovered a potential opportunity at the second largest grocery retailer in the world, Kroger. And as we started getting going, I said, lean on the fundamentals, run the playbook. And we followed that script there, solved a really big problem for them and ran a great campaign, which kind of gave me the confidence of I can do this. Don't focus on the technical details, focus on solving the customer pain, the customer challenge, showing them the value, and it'll take care of itself. So for me, it transformed my journey here, and 5 years later, and whatever title you just said I was, here we are.
So obviously, when you're in that situation and you're experiencing those challenges, how did you know that? How did those challenges show up, and what was it that you were facing, kind of on a daily basis, that made you reflect and say, "Okay, I need to change this"?
Well, it's interesting. We're in the DevOps space, so the customers and prospects we talk to get really excited about our technology. So it's easy to talk to them about features and functionality. And that's what I started doing at Kroger. They were like, show us the tech, let's get into an evaluation. And that's where you have to slow down, pull back, and focus on the playbook. What is the pain we're solving for them? Have we built champions, and is the EB validated that? It doesn't matter what you're selling in the world. If you can solve for ICE, which is identified pain, champion, and align to the EB, you're gonna have a really good shot. So in this particular story at Kroger, I wasn't focused on the little widgets and gadgets of the tech. I was focused on the pain and making sure they agreed with solving it. So leaning on those foundational elements of the playbook kind of helped me get through the mud of getting started at Harness.
So how did that come about that you realized that you were going into features and functions, and what was the point that you realized something was broken?
So it's a good story, and it's kind of what I talk to my teams about. I was about 4 or 5 months in at Harness. It was the first real opportunity I had going, and I'll never forget. I remember like yesterday. It was a cold December day. Luke Herdert, who was an SE at the time, now runs sales engineering for America. Nick Durkin, who's now our field CTO, and I brought pizzas into Kroger, and we said, we're gonna demo. And we showed them our continuous delivery technology, which they were all excited about. And they started whiteboarding use cases of like, hey, this is what we need to see. This is what we want to have. Let's go evaluate it. I'll never forget this. And so I leave the meeting. I call Sam Costello, who now runs, Global Vice President of Sales at Harness. And I'm like, Sam, we got a real one at Kroger. They want a POV. We're going to it next week. And Sam's like, that's amazing. What's the problem we're solving? So I talked about it. It's like, do you have a champion? Yes, it's this guy. And then this is where it came in. He's like, have you met the EB? And I knew right in that moment I had skipped a step and I wasn't running the playbook. So we slowed down and we followed the process to get to the EB. And this is where I think the story kind of becomes real, is what we thought we were solving for them, the economic buyer changed. He said, why are you solving for these legacy use cases? This is where we need to get to. This is the future state. Go show me you can do this. And by the way, pull in this app team and prove it with them, and you have my blessing. So not only did we save time on an evaluation that we wouldn't have been what he wanted, it grew the deal because we brought in their largest revenue producing application and turned into a life-changing 7-figure deal for Harness, and the customer, it solved a big problem for them. And they're still using us today.
So when Sam obviously came to you with that kind of reality check, at that moment, before that, you must have been feeling, I've got one here. I'm gonna win, I'm gonna take this down. How did you initially feel when that feedback came from Sam?
Yeah, Sam has a very, and I'll look at Sam here, and because he's probably gonna see this, Sam has a really great way of giving feedback to help you lead to your own rescue. And so it wasn't in a demeaning way, like, why did you skip this step? What are you doing? It's like, we know doing an EB go, no-go meeting is gonna give us, today it's 90+% win rate. We wanna win the deal. We wanna solve a problem the customer is trying to achieve. Why would we skip it? So it was that sinking feeling in your stomach or like, shoot, I got caught. But also he's there to help and guide me on the right path. So Sam has a way of coaching and I'll never forget that. And now I try to emulate that with my team.
My question is around that point that, fast forwarding, getting that deal done, what does that mean for you at that moment in time, and where did that then set you in your career?
Yeah, so I mentioned, I learned a lot of this playbook at Perfecto, and I thought I knew how to go run it. And then I came to Harness, and it was a bit of a kind of a monkey on my back the first 2 quarters, like, am I gonna be able to make it here? Getting back to the fundamentals and running what we know works showed me, hey, I can do this. It gave me the confidence. And the next, year and a half, we went on a tear, built the region into the top region in the company really, and has set me on my journey to, being a leader within this organization. So it wasn't the biggest deal we've done at Harness or the biggest deal I've done in my career, but it's been the most impactful because it showed me doing the little things right, running the play that we know works, will set you up for success. So
we obviously hear this, this is now a thing, which is imposter syndrome. Obviously, you've come into a very, very technical sale. When you're first going out and you're having these engagements with these CIOs, CTOs, and your knowledge on technology isn't where you would probably want it to be. How do you deal with some of that imposter syndrome, and what is it that you do what advice can you give to others that are maybe going through that same experience?
Yeah, actually on your Hunters and Unicorns podcast, Sam's, his session with you guys, he said, the customer is the North Star. And if you lean on that and you remember that, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, what are you trying to solve for? What are the pain your teams are experiencing, and focus on that? They don't care about the little widgets and gadgets of the tech. They want to understand what problems are you solving for an organization. And then who are the team under you that are trying to solve that? And then we'll go validate the tech. But that's the key. If you get too deep in the tech with the executives, you're going to lose them quickly. Focus on what they're trying to solve, their goals and initiatives, and then with their team, show them how your tech helps them to get there. And then the key, shout out to Doug May, is have a business case. Do the business value assessment, not just can we do this technically? There's real value to be had if you go do this.
So just going back to the story that we were just kind of talking about just a moment ago, obviously you were talking to the champion, but then you realized that perhaps the champion you had wasn't quite attached to the bigger business value. So tell us more around that whole kind of business value and that realization and what you had to navigate to actually get this done, because you wouldn't have done a deal had you just stayed where you were.
We might have done a deal eventually, but we would have run a POV on use cases that weren't relevant to the person that needed to say yes. We would have wasted time, and we probably wouldn't have done as big of a deal, or they would have lost interest and something else would have come up and it would have been deprioritized. I think it's one of the biggest traps that sellers that are up and coming need to learn is, like, when you have a technologist that's excited about what you're doing, that's a really great start. But slow down and make sure the person that can say yes when everyone else is saying no cares about it. And so what we did there is I had to explain to him why it was important to do that executive alignment. Hey, we're a small startup that doesn't have unlimited cycles, and you're a very busy digital team that can't just be doing science projects. Let's make sure what we just mapped out, your leadership cares about and cares about doing it now. That way we're gonna go solve a problem that can actually lead to something and not just a science experiment. So explaining the why to them is the key to that.
So you've got to that point of discovering what that hypothesis is. How do you then go and validate that hypothesis with the real EB?
Yeah, I mean, it's through that conversation. The key is you've identified pain and you've identified where they want to get to. You've quantified the value of getting there, and you've defined use cases that will help you get to that future state. If you have that mapped out with a champion, that's the start. Then you got to test your champion. They need to take you to their leader or their leader's leader, who's the EB, and you go validate that. So that's where you start. You want to build a really good story. And if you have the business case as a part of that story, the economic buyer conversation is that much better. Here's how we're going to solve your challenge and the value of solving it. But that's the key, and that is the importance of champions. If you don't have a champion, you won't get a deal done. And if you have really good champions or champions, you're going to grow the deal, and then they're willing to take you to the economic buyer, which fortunately in this case at Kroger, he did, and he's still there working with us today.
You mentioned that at Perfecto Mobile, you had amazing mentors, Rob Watson, Keith Butler, you're some of the best. And you've seen many of these cycles and been part of these cycles. Why was this different to the ones that you'd seen previously?
Well, different, I think it was my aha moment in harness because I knew what we needed to do. And then I think I got a little loose because I was trying to survive. And Sam helped reel me back in and stay the course and stick to the playbook. So I think that was different. It was also I've done the EB go-no-goes where they're like, yes, what my team has mapped out is right. Yes, we want to do it, go. This was that moment where he's like, hang on a second. This is wrong. I don't want to prove out this legacy stuff. This is where we're going. This is where we need to get to. Go show me this and you got a deal. That was the first time he paused me and said, this is wrong. Go do this. So I think that's the biggest difference is he changed the course of the evaluation, saved us a lot of time, saved them a lot of time. We grew the deal and kind of changed my career.
Do you know what's interesting now? Having experienced that, how quickly do you want your reps to get to that moment?
Teaching, if you've lived the experience, is much easier. So when I can tell that story and explain to our sellers the why behind these things, and then they can explain to their customers or prospects the why, this isn't a checkbox exercise in our sales process because we want to make it hard. It's to make the process easier, to save time and do it the right way. So having lived it, I believe it. I've seen it work, and it's the first thing I talk to the team about when we get into POVs.
John, you obviously come across as someone that's really well put together.
You know, I don't know about that.
And I say this as a compliment, right? You do really well. You've closed some big accounts. You follow the playbook. Is it all kind of plain sailing? Is it? Talk to us about some of the emotions that even someone that is as well as put together as you are, that you still go through as part of these deal cycles.
Totally. It happened to me yesterday. You want to lean on the foundation that you've built, but there are moments where you're out in the field and you start to question life. Am I the right person for this role? Am I adding enough value? Whatever. That's where I think having strong mentors really comes into play. Sam Costello has been a game changer for my career, my life really. But you look at the list of people I've got to learn from. Last night I was with Keith Butler and Rob Watson, and even 8 years later from the first Rob outlining what MedPick was on the back of the napkin for me, he's still giving me guidance and Keith giving encouragement. And now at Harness, Jason Eubanks had a profound impact on my journey. I got to see the playbook from a different perspective as we grew from 0 to 100 million. And then unbelievably blessed to get to see Carlos, our new CRO, a year ago now, how he operates. I think he's the best operator in the world. And I thought I was a good seller or a good leader. And now getting to learn and see how he does this, it's like, pouring gasoline on the flames. It's been amazing. So for me, long-winded way of saying, like, you got to reflect. You got to say, are you staying true to our process? But then also lean on your mentors and ask for that help. Carlos's first week here, I said, I'd love to do a monthly with you. He's like, great, let's do a bi-weekly. And so for me, 2 promotions later since he's been here, it's changed my career and my life. And for that, I'm thankful. And hopefully someday I can pay that forward.
How do you think this has shaped you as an individual and your leadership style?
I think you look at the best leaders in the world, they pull things from different people. There's some things about a Nick Saban or a Bill Belichick who are American football coaches, you guys, and I know, not soccer.
Do they use their feet or their hands?
Yeah, they are both. But, you know, they're very attention to detail and stay the process, and it's a little more rigid, and you need some of that. But then there's other coaches, you look at their style, there's some player coach, and there's some relatability, and they're in the boat rowing with you. Like, I like to pull from different people. So in my world, that's the Sams and the Keefs and the Jasons and the Carloses. And you think about that, that's like the Mount Rushmore of the playbook community. And then I want to someday have my own style. I have a little bit of Sam and a little bit of Carlos. And then someday someone can say that about me, so.
Well, look, I think, John, this is the moment where we reflect on what's been an amazing session with you today. I think it's been a long time coming. Obviously, really impressed with the trajectory, but actually just spending this time today, sat in this seat, it's really easy to understand the foundations and the layers, and actually the trials and tribulations and how the failures are just as important as the theory, because it's not until you apply the theory and you fail and you learn and you adapt that you can really understand why that theory is the way it is. So I just want to say a massive thank you for you.
Yeah. Well, hey, holding us today. Thanks to you guys. I know I just talked about the Mount Rushmore of the playbook, but I think you could throw you guys in that. I mean, Hunters and Unicorns is a podcast that, I don't know, 3 years ago I started listening to, and what you guys have done for this community has been amazing. I've of course experienced those people I shared, but hearing other leaders who are doing this in their organizations is a way for us as sellers in this community to get nuggets from them. So thank you guys for what you're doing, and
Get a bit emotional here.
and we'll have to do this again sometime.
No, 100%. And I think it's right. I think, you know, just echoing what Simon said, I think, you know, we talk about what that mistake or what that learning did for you, but I think you could actually see what that's not done just for you, but how it's now helping you teach others through your mistake as well, which again just demonstrates great leadership to capabilities. So
Well, thanks for having me on.
great to have you on the show.
Pleasure to be here, and we'll have to do it again.
So to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you've heard, please do subscribe to our various channels, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. All the links are in the description below, and we look forward to welcoming you back for another session very soon. Take care.